The sense of immediacy of the crisis in the Middle East can often seem distant to most Americans, particularly because of the fiscal difference, despite the wall-to-wall media coverage. But for those with relatives, family, and friends in the region, the sense of anxiety is much more acute.
I have pictures of my niece. She's 10.
Ruti Polachek was born and raised in Rehovot, a small city just south of Tel Aviv. 29 years old, she lives in New York City now and runs a tech startup.
My parents are in Rehovot, they're okay. My sister lives in Tel Aviv and we talk every day, and she was okay, but it's, it's just an insane situation. And another nephew of mine.
The last time her parents' home was under threat was 2 decades ago during the Gulf War. She was a little girl at the time.
I actually feel for the kids that are growing up with this, because for me as a kid, I had it for just the Gulf War, but there are kids in cities next to Gaza that, since they were born, that's how they've been living. They have to run to shelters every so often, all the time. And I have a lot of friends from there, and it's just a different way of life.
She says that despite the concerns, there is a spirit of resilience which sustains them.
People, as much as possible, keep, doing what they're doing. We move on. We're not afraid. I'm actually visiting Israel next week, and people are like, "Oh, you're coming now?" I was like, "Yeah. Why would I? Why not?" It's not the ideal situation. Let's put it that way. I would love to be there with them, and I'm glad I'm going next week.
Deborah Plum grew up between Israel and the U.S. A dual national, her friends and family are scattered across Israel.
I feel really sad to not be there with them. I sort of wake up sometimes and want to check the news at 4 a.m. or 3 a.m. just to sort of know, and I stay in touch with them as much as possible because it feels very strange to be so distant. It's really interesting for me to be so far. It's the first time I feel I've been that far when something that important or something that crucial is going on.
She's able to tap out messages to her friends in Hebrew on her phone, checking in multiple times a week. But Plum senses that this latest round of conflict represents a new threat to Israelis living in the country's major population centers.
I know that when the first rockets approached or came close to the Tel Aviv area, that was a big moment for a lot of my friends, and they even wrote me messages. All of them said the same thing. Everything's different now. That was the sense of it.
But like Polachek, Plum says she thought about jumping on a plane as soon as she heard news of the first sirens in Tel Aviv, and is still considering going over to show support.
It's something I've just thought about doing even, over the holidays, just to be there even if it's over, just to be with them right afterwards, and sort of be there for my friends and family.
Like Plum and Polachek, Fida Abuasi checks her phone, Twitter, and Facebook to monitor the situation back home. The difference, she hails from the other side of the border with her entire family in Gaza.
It's really very hard to be here in the U.S., but I'm actually in spirit there in Gaza.
Skype is her main means of staying in touch with her family as well.
For example, I don't know what's going on there, especially when I don't reach my family. I become so inconsolable. When I'm not with them, I'm worried more about them.
So the New Yorkers in the region are following every twist and turn of this story, plugged in with family members and friends, also connected to electronic media, and it's making the crisis seem somewhat close, even though they are so far away. This is Stephen Fee for JN1 in New York.